Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts, sports journalist David Todd, and from SteelersDepot.com, Dave Bryan. Just a couple of Daves, chillin', talking Steelers. Now, here's Dave and Dave.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2018. I am Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com. It is August 7th, Tuesday. It is 5:40 in Las Vegas. That means it is 8:40 outside of Pittsburgh, where Alex Kozora has just returned once again from Latrobe. Alex, happy Tuesday. We got some hard knocks tonight. I hope you have HBO.
I don't. Maybe I'll have to steal your cable, Dave. But we got some hard knocks coming up Thursday, too. Last practice, we're going to a game. I can't wait.
That's great segue there. Boy, I don't know about you, but I'm getting super geeked right now. And usually do this time of year. Mike Tomlin held his pregame press conference today. We'll go over a little bit about what he said. But I think first and foremost, we should probably start with a story that Melanie Friedlander, Dr. Mel, as we like to call her, or at Girl Surgeon on Twitter, helped get out first thing this morning thanks to a tweet sent to her by Alex at ALDT26 on Twitter. They located Antonio Brown, and evidently he had been down in Miami doing a quick rehab with Dr. Mike Wassolison. Don't ask me to pronounce that again. But apparently it was for a hip flexor, which I think according to what Melanie wrote up, really kind of in line with the quad or whatnot, right? And that's the kind of what I took it along those same lines. I'm trying to find it in particular here. But anyway, she's got, given the reports of both the quad strain and now hearing Dr. Mike call it a hip flexor injury, we could probably assume that AB's injury involves the rectus femoris.
Is that a Harry Potter reference or something?
I thought it was a dinosaur.
There you go. Sounds like it.
But anyway, it doesn't sound, the doctor in the video said that he would be back at training camp, and lo and behold, he was. So good job, Melanie, and thank you, Alex, for sending Dr. Mel that tip. Great way to start the day there. As we just said, AB was back at Latrobe this morning. He didn't talk to the media, but he was out there on the practice field today, on the far field, working on some rehab, right?
Yeah, he came down a little bit after practice started, was on the middle field doing, some weight resistance stuff, had a band around his waist with a weight on the ground he was pulling, doing some high knee stuff. I have a quick video of that, working with assistant strength and conditioning coach Marcel Pastor, who usually is kind of his guy to stretch him out before practice. I guess they have a good relationship. So it sounded like, and we'll get into this, I guess, in a little bit, but Mike Tomlin anticipates Brown coming back for Saturday's practice.
Yeah, and that's what he said. AB, will be one of the several that won't play Thursday night against Philadelphia in the preseason opener. He wasn't probably going to play anyway,
right.
So no issue there. And Tomlin said during his press conference that signs are pointing toward him returning to work after that game. So we'll just have to wait and see. The good news is, I know there were some rumblings. AB went silent on social media. I think a couple of media guys, took to the internet to write some articles wondering if it was worse than maybe what Tomlin's letting on. It doesn't sound like it is. So there you go. Now, Mike Tomlin did say that several players will not play in the game Thursday night. Those players, because of injury, being, of course, AB, TJ Watt with the hamstring, Bud Dupree with a concussion, Vance McDonald with a foot. Those are four that are for sure going to sit out with injury. Mike Tomlin didn't name Ramon Foster, but we We know Ramon Foster's going to sit that out as well. He also said Ben's not going to play in that game, and going to, as we said in a couple of podcasts ago, he's going to leave the proverbial light on for those that are trying to work back through some injuries there. Now, do you want to give us the guys who, on top of those guys who did not work today?
Yeah, and the list is getting a little bit shorter, so if that's any sort of, I guess, solace to Steelers fans. Other people that did not participate that you didn't mention, Brian Allen, Keon Adams, both undisclosed there. I assume that they're minor, and those are probably the guys that Tomlin's referring to when he says leaving the light on for. A lot of good news, a lot of guys returning back in either partial or full work. DeCastro Gilbert had a day off Sunday. They went back full today. Joe Hayden returned from his minor injury. Juju was full today. Same with Marcus Tucker with that right ankle. DHB was in uniform. Not 100% sure if he was full in team today, but he went through the walkthroughs and the individual. So if he's not full yet, he will be very soon. So that's good news there.
So basically everybody of wide receiver wise, should at least be available, it sounds like. Whether or not they play is another story, but everybody but AB, right, should be good to go.
That would be my expectation, yes.
Okay, it's kind of concerning about Keon Adams. We'll have to see what happens there. He's yet to play in a preseason game, right? And,
right.
Of course, who was the other one?
Allen.
Brian Allen, yeah. And Mike Tomlin talking about soft tissue injuries makes me think that those guys might fall into those that category there. The good news is guys like Morgan Burnett and Sean Davis and Artie Burns all have been back working, right?
Yeah, they've been back. They should be good to go, or at least the Tomlin decision. The only injury scare today was Marquise Pouncey, who went down with, at the very moment it happened, what looked like fairly potentially serious, I think it was a right ankle, right foot, something like that, but he finished today for the most part. He came back, so he's going to be fine there, but for a moment there was a bit of a scare.
Okay, now as far as some of the other things Mike Tomlin said, probably nothing really shocking. I don't think I heard you your jaw drop at any point on the Twitter machine. It sounds like his intent is for Landry Jones, Joshua Dobbs, and Mason Rudolph to all play against the Eagles. So he would not reveal the order or who's going to play, enter the game when. He never reveals those kind of things. I think it kind of goes, how the game situation unfolds and go from there. So I would bet that Landry Jones plays, I don't know, a couple series, maybe the first quarter, and then turns it over, I would guess, to Dobbs, and then Mason Rudolph to close things out. However, don't be surprised if he mixes all of that up, right?
Yeah, honestly, I'll stick my neck out a little bit. Jones is going to start. I'm like 99% confident in that, but I think Mason Rudolph is going to be the next man in. I think they want to get a long look at him. I think he's had the nice start to camp to warrant that jump, I guess, in the pecking order. My guess is Rudolph's going to be the second quarterback in Thursday.
I certainly hope that's correct. That's what I'm hoping for. I mean, obviously, I want to see Dobbs get some action during the preseason as well, too. But, boy, the hype right now, it's mega Rudolph right now. Right?
You should trademark that.
Or Mega Mason.
Mega Mason. Ooh, I like Mega Mason better. It's been good, but I think Tomlin did a nice job today of explaining that you have to reel these things in. Quarterbacks are an environment where the receivers, generally speaking, can't get hit, so you're free to throw it over the middle without fear of getting one of your guys killed. Obviously, you as a quarterback can't get hit. I mean, you are just untouchable. Even when Keith Kelsey, one practice ago, kind of knocked the football out of his hands, he threw his hands up in the air saying, sorry, didn't mean to do that, didn't mean to touch the quarterback. That's going to change this Thursday where everyone's gunning for you. You're behind a line that's probably not going to be the starters. You're going to have miscommunication there, things like that. So, you have to get these guys into some sort of stadium action before you can properly truly start to build an evaluation. But it's been a nice start, and especially from where it began to where it is now for Mason Rudolph.
And in addition to highlighting that he's interested in seeing Mason get hit Thursday night, he wants to see some ball security. And going back the last couple of drafted quarterbacks, ball security in their first preseason games has been a little bit of an issue. You go back last year to Joshua Dobbs, 2 interceptions in that game, and then go all the way back to 2013. Do you remember the first snap that Landry Jones had?
I saw your gif of it. It didn't end well.
Yeah, he banged into Baron Batch. The ball came out into the end zone. Landry Jones recovered, and you had a safety. That was I think Bob Papiana did the call on that. An inauspicious start. What's the word?
That's it. There you go.
Okay, I said that right. But, look, we're excited to see Mason. We're not going to – either way, Alex and I promise not to draw any hard conclusions to what happens in that game against the Eagles. We advise all of you watching to try not to do the same. We're going to do all the charting of the throws for both him and, well, really probably for all three quarterbacks, but most notably Rudolph and Dobbs will be the first ones we try to get out there. Some news breaking kind of later on this afternoon from the Trib is that Quadre Henderson said earlier in the day that he's going to be the number one kickoff and punt returner. So that'll be something to look forward to.
Yeah, happy for him because the reps at receiver have not happened for him to kind of really show anything in preseason. It's going to have to come as a return man, and your opportunities as a return man are inherently limited because how many kicks are going to sail out of the end zone, how many punts are going to be fair caught. So good for him to get as much burn as possible. So I expect Henderson to probably be the first half guy and maybe Justin Thomas in the second half.
All right, and it'll be interesting to see how this new kickoff rule, Tomlin hit briefly on that, talking about how securing the football first and foremost is the biggest thing he wants to see related to especially the kickoff team and this kickoff rule, and then to see the play speed, and play speed shouldn't be an issue with Quadre Henderson. If there's one, and I wrote this up this afternoon, if there's one positive attribute that he has coming out of the University of Pittsburgh, it's his play speed and his ability to get up to full speed very quickly. So it'd be interesting to see if he can turn that into a couple of long returns against the Eagles.
Yeah, hoping so. Hopefully he can do something that can, like Stephon Logan did several years ago, of making an impact, making a splash play, because that's how you're going to get noticed. But yeah, it'll be interesting because everyone's adjusting to the new kickoff rules. Even in the college game, it's an adjustment. So the play speed isn't necessarily just, how fast you are, but just how well you're processing, how much you're thinking, and the less you think, the faster you'll play.
Okay, did I miss anything before we get into breaking down what happened today? Did I miss anything in the housekeeping section or anything that you wanted to highlight that Mike Tomlin said?
No, I think there was some good discussions with Tomlin, but a lot of it was kind of logistical stuff. But again, I go back to what Tomlin said. He puts it in the right perspective of, it's about details first, ball security, clean center, quarterback exchanges, clean handoffs, not turning the football over, taking care of the football, good ball awareness, whether that's downing a punt, knowing some of the new rules for receivers getting 2 feet in bounds instead of 1 foot down like the college game, when the football is live, and just those kind of things that are detail-oriented. But if you don't do the details, you can't make the big plays.
Okay, moving on to what happened today. Kind of, how would you describe today's practice overall?
Low key, very low key. Shorts and shells, which is to be expected 2 days out. They were on the turf field only, which is pretty rare for them. But I think, one, they weren't tackling, so you can be on the turf field. You wouldn't tackle on a turf field. And two, just with all the rain that they've had on some of the other fields and some of the severe weather in the Latrobe area, I think kept them on that field. So when you're working on one field, it's tough to do some of the one-on-ones. You don't do a lot of the drills that you might normally have in a full field environment. No O-line, D-line today because they were in shells. So yeah, very much not a walkthrough, but just a step above a walkthrough, which they'll have, I guess, the walkthrough, tomorrow, I guess, before Philly.
All right, offensive line. Who was the first one to take over for Pouncey there when he missed a little time?
Yeah, Pouncey missed a couple reps to finish out that session, and then they held him out the last session, but they also held out Ben, so I think standard fare there. But Finney moved to center, and then Matt Filer came in at left guard. DeCastro still right, Gilbert right tackle, Villanueva left tackle, but Filer left guard, Finney at center.
Would you guess we'll see guys like Villanueva and Gilbert and DeCastro for just a handful of plays with Landry?
Yeah, I think you're going to see at least, because we mentioned this last podcast, you're going to see, I think, 2 or 3 starters. Definitely no Pouncey. Obviously no Foster. I'm not sure on DeCastro, but I think you probably want to keep in your tackles just because you're kind of a little thin behind. And, I think Villanueva needs some reps because he always has some tough starts to the year, and Gilbert missed all the time last year. So my guess is a series or two of Villanueva and Gilbert. DeCastro I'm 50-50 on. I'll say DeCastro gets a series.
I wouldn't play any of them.
I don't blame you.
I
don't blame you.
I dang sure wouldn't play Pouncey. I'll tell you that. And
He won't.
DeCastro, I mean, you get him some work in that third preseason game ought to be good. I think the same with Gilbert. Yeah, maybe you could use Villanueva, get a few snaps there, but other than that, I don't care to see too much of those guys for obvious reasons.
The only reason I said DeCastro, because if you're sitting DeCastro too, because you have Filer in, because you have Finney in with a lack of depth elsewhere, that means you're starting like Parker Collins, and obviously Collins is going to play significant snaps, but do you want him with the first group of guys? Maybe you'd rather have an established guy just to kind of get you off on the right foot.
Let's go this way, Alex. Name me the offensive lineman you're most excited to see play Thursday night.
That's a good question. I'm gonna go a core four, because I could give you a more, I guess, eclectic answer of like a Patrick Morris or a Jake Rogers, but a core four, of course, is going to be your next man up. Definitely at left tackle, perhaps still at right tackle. He's going to play this year. It's just a question of how much. And so a guy, again, that has all the physical tools, but you want to see him execute and play with good technique. So I know it's probably an easy answer to give, but you got to go with a rookie at core four.
All right, I'm not going to let you out that easy. Who would be second on the list?
I'll go Jake Rogers, because I think he's going to have a good camp. He's had a good camp. I think he's going to have a good preseason. And, if you want to talk about any sort of debate for who a potential ninth offensive lineman would be, it'd probably be Rogers driving that bus. I still think he's practice squad, but if he has a really impressive preseason, I could see him stick. So a guy that's, in his second time with the team, game slows down for him. Let's see how he does.
Ed Bouchette, by the way, in his chat today said he thinks the Steelers should trade for a tackle pronto.
Did he mention about a core force play, or did you just not trust him, or did he give any sort of context?
I don't think he put any. He don't put much context in this.
Fair point. What do you think? You agree with that assessment?
I need to watch these guys. I mean,
Yeah,
you've had the luxury of watching these guys out there. I haven't seen them one bit. So ask me in a couple more weeks, and even so, not having all 22 sure makes it tough. But I should have a pretty good idea, I think, in a couple of weeks. Okay, running backs. Someone asked me on Twitter today, are we really going to see that much James Conner in this preseason opener? And I said, yeah, I think so. He's still got a lot to work on.
Yeah, I think so too. You want to see what he's done in camp, impressive as it's been, translate to the games. The camp means nothing if it doesn't happen in game. You want to get him in pass protection because, I mean, like I said, his pass protection last year, I know it got knocked on, but he literally did it once, if I'm being generous, twice in the regular season. So you need to get him reps there to get in that game environment to see where he's at. You want to see him catch the football. I want to, see him split out and throw it past him. I want to see a screen to James Conner. So I think he at least plays, what do you think, Dave, the first quarter?
Maybe not even. I mean, I'd like to see him get a good 12, 13, 14 snaps at least, right?
Yeah, that could potentially take you a quarter if you do 2 drives.
And I don't think we're going to see all those running backs. We talked about that the other night. I think you'll see some this week and then some next week with Samuels and Conner being part of both games. Yeah. I don't think how much do you need to see if Fitzgerald, Toussaint? Ridley you might want to see a little bit, see how he's progressing, being as how he was signed late last year. But you should know who he is by now. Obviously, we're going to see I think a lot of Javarian Franklin and maybe wrapping up with the Summers kid late. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Summers doesn't get any snaps at all.
Yeah, there's probably going to be someone that gets very few snaps, if any. Franklin may only get a carry or 2. He'll probably get some fullback time in the second half, so that's going to be a pathway to play time for him. But, yeah, I don't expect much from Franklin or Summers in Game 1.
All right, tight ends. We're McDonald-less still, and that means, how much do you need to see out of Jesse James? And I think you had a note today that Bucky showing some traits during practice that caused him to get drafted.
Yeah, just some of the one-on-one. I think he beat, it was Matthew Thomas vertically. Now, again, it's one-on-one. It's slanted to the offense, but beat him vertically and made a great fingertip catch. So, again, don't ask Bucky to block. Just not going to be his skill set, even if he's a pretty big guy. But get him in space, you can win there. So, can he be this year's Jake McGee in the sense of a mid-camp ad that finds their way on the practice squad? Now, again, McGee and Hodges are polar opposites. McGee a blocker, Hodges a receiver, but I could buy that. I could buy Hodges over McKeever.
Anything else really stick out? I know they probably didn't do much into that today overall. And it's hard to talk about that position probably.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see some of these guys. I mean, there's a lot of young talent there, whether that is McKeever, who can make some plays vertically as well, whether that's Christian Scotland Williams. So let's just see how this guy looks in a game environment. I mean, so talk about a big difference from a rugby atmosphere. So just to see what he does. I'm sure he's going to struggle in a lot of ways, but if he can make a play or two, that'll be, cool to see, as a 6'9", 270-pounder trying to push guys around.
Have you seen any type of, or have you paid close enough attention to see any kind of progression with him?
I think he's gotten better on the sleds. He's got to keep his eyes up. I mean, it's head down on contact every time, which I guess just a rugby style. You don't have to really worry about blocking like that. So he's a big guy that can, push people around because he looks like a mini tackle out there. So there's been some progression. I mean, he's just barely been targeted as a receiver. I think he has 2 or 3 catches in team drills, and he's played every practice. So it's just tough to kind of gauge it. But he made one nice catch today and one-on-ones, plucking the ball over a Denier. McKeever did as well. So maybe when the lights come on, something comes out of CSW.
We probably say this every year, but is this the most excited you've been about a young wide receiver group heading into the first preseason game?
Oh, if I had to answer that honestly, it's probably been groups in the past. I mean, I think the group, some guys have faded, some guys have stepped up. We've seen more from Tevin Jones. I thought Jones had a nice practice today. Griffey had the one practice. That was about it from him. Patterson's kind of on his way down. He's kind of had the ebbs and flow. He started hard. He's coming down a little bit. But yeah, excited to see Patterson. Excited to see Jones from the slot. Excited to see Justin Thomas hopefully get some work in space. Maybe Griffey can make a play, vertically downfield. This group maybe has underwhelmed a little bit, especially in recent practices, but there's a lot of intrigue there. I'm excited to see these guys on special teams cover. I mean, you got a lot of guys with a coverage background that's rare. I think they're going to do some work.
You think we'll see the who will be the starting 2, and then who's the third one?
Oh man, is Juju going to play? That's a good question. I wonder if they're going to let Juju play, or they're going to kind of rest that knee. I'd rest him if it was me, but I think you'll see. Let's assume Juju's not playing. That's just my guess. DHB.
Well, give us 2 scenarios: if Juju plays and if Juju doesn't play.
Okay. Well, it'd be similar, I guess. If Juju plays, he would be. What do I want to say? Well, okay. If Juju plays, DHB's the X, Juju's the Z. If Juju does not play, DHB's the X, and Hunter is the Z. That's my guess how it goes. Marcus Tucker in the slot.
All right, and what do you predict to be the next group coming after that?
Next group after that, James Washington, the Z, Damon Patterson, the X. I think Tucker will keep getting work on the slot, but then after that would be Tevin Jones in the slot.
Okay. Anything stick out about that group today?
Tevin Jones, I thought had a nice catch over his head, full extension, reached over his helmet and plucked it. Yeah, it's an interesting guy in the slot. He's a bigger type. He looks like a little Juju-like in the slot. He's not a small, shifty guy, but he's made some big plays before, whether that's, I think he was in Kansas City last year and had a long touchdown pass. He made some big plays in college. So Tevin Jones is one guy that's catching my attention more than some of the other reserve receivers.
Okay, and quarterback.
Rudolph getting mixed in. I think someone asked me, is Rudolph running with the 2s today? He did get some work with the 2s when they went 7 shots. It was Rudolph getting the rest of the work after Ben came out after the first 4 snaps. But they mixed and matched. Dobbs got work with the 2s as well. So I don't have a whole lot of information on how they did today. It's a low-key environment, a lot of throwaways, a lot of guys taking off, scrambling. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Rudolph does. And it's just hard to kind of gauge what the pecking order is because these guys mix and match so much. There'll be days where Rudolph doesn't get many snaps. There'll be days where Rudolph throws 20 passes. There'll be days where he's running with the reserves and days where he's running with the 2s. And you can say the similar about Landry Jones and Josh Dobbs. So, it's hard to kind of gauge, but I think there's a lot of excitement about Mason Rudolph right now.
I tell you, you can't judge a guy just by the way he gives interviews, but I liked his poise today when he talked to the media. He looks like he's ready. We'll see. I mean, obviously, sounding ready and being ready are 2 different things, but I'm geeked. I mean, I think because I've watched so much damn tape on him and James Washington this offseason. I mean, every single snap, really 4 years worth. during the offseason on both those guys. So I'm really excited to see both those guys play, and I obviously hope they play well. But I'm not going to be afraid to pick either one of those guys apart. Dobbs, I'm excited to see him play as well too. Landry less so because I feel like I know who he is now at this point. All right, switching over to the defensive side of the ball. How many warm bodies they going to have at outside linebacker Thursday night?
It's looking like 3. If Keon can't go, Dupree's already been ruled out. Watt's already been ruled out. Those are guys you potentially will get back the Saturday practice, the first practice after the preseason game. I think there's a chance for both those guys, or all 3 of them, to participate. Adams could be a game-time decision, but you'll have 3, Adeniyi, Hugan, and Chicolo, and then I think Matthew Thomas will get work at left outside linebacker because he's been running there the last 2 practices because the numbers are thin.
A couple of years ago, I think we saw L.J. Fort, because of the numbers being low, have to take some snaps at outside linebacker. Do you remember that against either it was like Green Bay or was it Washington preseason game? It wasn't many, but do you remember that?
I don't remember the game, but I remember when he first got here, he was working the edge. He was an edge guy at Cleveland when he played with them his rookie year and played defensive snaps. So he was, I think, more of an edge guy than an inside guy, and Pittsburgh kind of, put him off ball. So he could, maybe work there too.
You haven't seen any of that in practice though, right?
No, and my guess is that he won't get work there. They're shifting, I think, Matthew Thomas. But Fort's had a very active camp. He's the guy that's around the football constantly. I think a guy that I feel is an underrated asset to this team that, I think could have helped them last year, and is someone I hope they keep around. So it'd be interesting to watch him. Interesting to watch Adeniyi, who had another nice practice today, a quick first step, again, the strength. So my big question with him, and I'll keep it short because I've said it before, but can he cover on special teams? But I think this is a guy that's going to get 2 or 3 sacks in the preseason.
Keep your fingers crossed on Adams too, for listeners. That's a guy.
You haven't heard the injury at all? You have no idea?
No, I haven't. I really haven't. I'm guessing that it's soft tissue, and that's just a guess on my part. I was wondering if maybe they'd bring in a body today,
Yeah.
But they didn't. So, maybe they'll have 4 ready. Maybe Adams will make it by Thursday night. I hope so.
Yeah, I think, and if not, they'll move Thomas there. And I think, again, them not making a move is an indication that they expect Dupree and Watt and Adams to come back within a week or so.
All right, defensive line.
Really not much there. It's hard to learn much in a session like this today. I just have the word under my notes for defensive line. We can talk about the group more big picture if you want to, anything on your mind about that, but I honestly don't have really any sort of takeaway today.
Who's the one player to watch? Is it Frazier?
Frazier's going to be interesting. His quick first step, his punch, I think will be able to collapse the pocket. I'm interested, of course, in Big Dan just because I've seen more in camp this year than I've seen in any other camp from him. Does that translate to a game? Or am I going to look stupid and wrong and he's going to look like the same old, Dan Shade-Tree McCullers? So that's the guy to look out for. The group, I think, is generally settled, and you have a lot of reserves that haven't stuck out in any sort of significant, noticeable way. But I'm always interested in some of the backups if they can do something to warrant more snaps, whether that's a Kendall Vickers or Parker Cawthorn, Casey Sales, or what have you.
You're not dressing Cameron Hayward Thursday night, are you?
I wouldn't dress Hayward or do it. Let's get those guys healthy for a regular season because it's been rare the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, what's funny is we've got 6 guys that we know aren't playing. Slam dunk aren't playing. That list is going to grow quite a bit right before game time. We'll probably have, I don't know, what do you think, 12 guys maybe by the time all said and done. Probably not going to see any snaps in that game. So we'll figure that out right before game time there. Let's see which way. Inside linebacker, Bostic still. Is there any reason to believe that Bostic will get the start over Matakevich?
That's a really good question. I honestly could not tell you. I think my guess is going to be Matakevich just because of the seniority thing. And then game 2, they're going to go with Bostic. And then game 3 is going to be kind of whoever's leading that race. I still believe it won't be decided until after the third preseason game. I think it's going to be Bostic as their guy. But what do you think, Dave? Who's going to be the starter?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Matakevich just out of respect,
Mm-hmm.
You can still, heck, you could rotate those guys a couple of series if you wanted to.
Yeah, they how about this? What if you don't play Vince Williams and start both those guys? They've had rotations of Matakevich and Bostic working with the ones before.
Yeah, but
do you need to play Vince Williams?
I'd want to probably see them working together out there some. Maybe not this early. I mean, there's plenty of preseason, but I'd like to see Vince out there.
What about just Vince for a series, and then you get the other guy out there? And
I'd be fine with that.
Okay, I think it's a good idea.
Let's see. Who's the player deeper down the chart to watch at that position?
How about Keith Kelsey? I think Chris Adamski from the Trib had a nice article on him. Kelsey talking about a second-year guy, a lot more comfortable, as virtually every single second-year guy is going to be, but a guy that I think is a good run defender and can thump and can tackle and is an aggressive, violent hitter that could make the practice squad. So in coverage, probably going to struggle, as most of these inside linebackers on this roster are, not named Matthew Thomas and L.J. Fort. But Kelsey's a guy that I think has had a nice camp and is kind of coming on stronger, getting more reps now that Darnell Leslie's been long gone. So that's a guy that I'm interested to check out, number 55.
What is it? I mean, where are you at on Matthew Thomas right now?
I'm impressed. And again, preseason or training camp action only, haven't hit a preseason game, but I thought he would struggle with his keys more. I thought he'd be a guy that looked lost, out of position. I was worried about his mental processing. I think he's done a nice job. And I think in coverage, he's one of the few guys that have really flashed there, that's able to kind of match guys vertically, make plays on the football, be opportunistic, come away with an interception off a batted pass. So I think it's been a good start for him. We'll see what happens. I want to see him on special teams. I think he can excel there, but can he process and be in the right spot and not do dumb things? But I've been impressed.
All right. Let's see. Defensive backs.
Cody Sensabaugh, I think they threw at him twice today, and he had 2 incompletions thrown his way. So, Sensabaugh continues to kind of make life tough and difficult on quarterbacks. Joe Hayden got some good work in today, some good battles with Juju. Juju got him a couple times in 7 shots. Hayden had a breakup on the first play, 7 shots that I believe resulted in a pick by Burnett along the sideline. Are you playing all the corners, or what's your game plan?
I don't need to see Hayden. I don't think I need to see Artie in this first game. Right? I mean, I want to see a lot of Cameron Sutton. We'll see if Brian Allen suits up. I want to see, obviously, the everybody else from that aspect. I don't think I need to see Morgan Burnett this first game. I don't know.
You don't want to?
No, I take that back. I'd like to see. I'd like to see him out there. Obviously, I want to see Sean Davis on the field. I take that back. Go ahead and play all them starters a couple of series.
Including Burns and Hayden?
Yeah, I would. I think I would.
Yeah, for the communication.
Yeah, exactly for the communication. You got 3 more to go. That's my mentality with these preseason games. But because of the communication been in the explosive plays, I mean, it's not going to hurt them to be on the field a couple of series. Yeah. I don't think.
I would start everyone except for Hayden. I'd said Hayden, he's a vet. I want to manage his reps. He'll get it in the 3rd game. That's the only change I would make.
All right. We'll see how that transpires there. Who's someone deeper down the depth chart at cornerback to watch?
But Deshaun Phillips, a very mini-me version of Mike Hilton, and I think a path to the 53 is going to be awfully tough as almost a true backup slot guy. Phillips has played on the outside in camp, but a guy that's a cut from the similar cloth, or he's aggressive, he's physical, he looks like a good blitzer. I mean, we'll have to get in the game session to kind of learn how he time snaps up and things like that, but a good run stuffer, and his made plays on the football as well. He's got a good vertical. He plays the catch point well. He had a breakup on the last play of practice today, so a guy that could get some work at outside corner, in addition to definitely the slot, and I'm excited to see him work.
All right, special teams wise, we know Quadre is going to get the first stab at kicking punt returns, and who do you expect to come in after that?
Probably Justin Thomas.
Okay, let's see who will be the kind of the up back, the guys back on kickoff.
For the kick return team or the kick coverage?
Yeah, kickoff return team.
I'd have to pull up my notes. Let's do Quadri as the kick returner. Rosie Nix will be, because there's 3 guys back there now. It's only 3 guys allowed, essentially. Quadri, Nix. They had James Conner do it in the rep I saw, I think, on Friday Night Lights. But I don't think that'd be stupid to do in a game environment.
You think they'll put Samuels back there?
Probably not seamless. I'm thinking a tight end. So I'm thinking like a McKeever or a Bucky Hodges. Probably who's going to be that guy. It's my guess.
Okay, we'll see how that plans out. All right, anything else to add about today's practice or anybody we didn't talk about individually?
For the safety group, I know I touched on the corners primarily, but I'm excited to see all the safeties. Of course, Terrell Edmonds, get his first game action. Marcus Allen should get hopefully some decent amount of time, and I think he'll perform well because we know what he is. He knows what he is as a box kind of safety type. Malik Golden is a guy I've been high on. Hopefully, a free safety type that can show some range. Had a good preseason last year for being brand new, added the day of camp essentially, and held his own. And he told me that it would have been a tough decision the team would have had to make had he stayed healthy and not torn his groin in the last preseason game. So a lot of intrigue for those safety players as well.
All right, you wanna answer some Twitter questions?
Yeah, let's go for it. Go. What was the hashtag you came with? Go Ask Alex.
Go Ask Alex.
What's that in reference?
That's Jefferson Airplane.
What is Jefferson Airplane?
Oh Lord, Google it. Go Ask Alice.
Okay.
Yeah. If I had some fancy introduction music, I would play it here. But yeah, I'm spinning my wheels here trying to explain all that to you. But I thought it was a cute hashtag. I think people maybe 46 or older probably got it. But anyway, we got a few Twitter questions come through for you, Alex. Here we'll start with Tom Jeffries. What's the deepest position group the Steelers appear to have? Where do you think the most difficult cuts will come for Colbert and company?
That's a very good question, Tom. Where do I want to go here? I think corner in the secondary as a whole is going to be very competitive. I think you've been impressed by the talent of just not only the new guys, but some of the old veterans, whether that's a Cody Sensabaugh that's trying to stick around and state his case. So I think we'll have long discussions about, do you keep 11 DBs versus 10? Do you keep 6 corners versus 4 safeties, or 5 and 5? Or do you go really heavy 6 and 5? Whatever the combinations are. So I think the whole secondary is going to be a difficult conversation with some good players getting cut, and then the running back as well. If you don't keep 4, then I assume that means you're cutting, Ridley and Toussaint, and there's some talent there. So it makes things difficult for the team to part ways with. Okay,
from Frank Otilio Volunta. Frank, if I mispronounce your name, congratulations. What's the deal with Watt? They're being tight-lipped about it. Also, I heard Pouncey limped off the field today. Any update to that?
Watt's a left hamstring. I think it's just one of those soft tissue things that you mentioned that Tomlin talks about, where you want to be super cautious with these guys. You don't want to rush him back and turn a small thing into a big thing. If I had to guess, I think I said this a couple days ago, he'll be back for the first practice after the preseason game, so Saturday is my guess for him. Pouncey looked a little scary at the time, but he was fine. He finished team drill. He came back in, so he should be good to go. Don't expect him to play Thursday, but it's not going to be injury related.
All right, from James Ross. Did Michael Thomas, I think he means Matthew Thomas, did Matthew Thomas get any time at outside linebacker again today? If so, did he impress? I'm really hoping he makes the team to develop.
Yes, he did. He worked a left outside linebacker in some of the snaps I saw. A good first step. Probably doesn't have a great pass rush plan, so he's kind of one of those guys that either wins with his first step or he doesn't win at all. I think he'll work there Thursday because the numbers are thin. Unless Keon is ready to go, then he'll get more work inside. If I had to guess today, they're going to keep 5 inside linebackers. They're going to keep both Matthew Thomas and LJ Ford and give him some good special teamers. So we'll see where it goes, but I like his odds of making the 53.
All right, from Margie Geyer. So what order would you put the wide receivers in today? Which rookie is the most ready for whatever reason to play a regular season game today, knowing it will change over the rest of the preseason?
It's got to be James Washington. That's a guy that's had a nice camp, a little bit of a rough start, again, to be expected, but someone that, one, has good conditioning, so you trust him to be able to play as many snaps as you throw at him, which is always a good start, similar to Watt last year. Someone that can be physical, can make tough catches. I think someone that's probably getting experience at the slot, at different alignments and splits and things like that. So as much as we've talked up, Damon Patterson at times, James Washington has been consistent throughout, while Patterson's been more up and down, and that's kind of as advertised for James Washington coming out.
Margie also has in her tweet, hashtag DHB fan.
Yeah, DHB is making the team. A lot of value, not in just one area, but a leader on and off the field. A versatile guy, can play all three spots. A great special teamer, still has that speed, so his job is safe.
From Jeff, how do you properly pronounce Ola Adeniyi?
Well, I saw you on the Twitter machine, Dave, doing the going through the media guide with the pronunciations. So, do you know it better than I do? You might. You might. No?
You know who you're talking to here.
Well, you had the pronunciation of it's like a Danny. I think I say a Denny. It might be a Danny, but we'll let Bob Pompiani handle those things. I say Ola Adeniyi.
Yeah, I'll go with whatever you or Bob say. You're correct, Bob.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think he tweeted back to me that he's probably going to cheat on that. So, Jeff, give us time to get some of these names down, especially me. I'm a little undereducated. Ted Webb, special teams. Have you noticed if Boswell is trying to kick maybe inside 5 to 10 yard instead of end zone for okay, yeah. What he's saying is, do you notice on any of the kickoffs that maybe they're working out him trying to get the ball to land inside the 5 to 10 yard line instead of the end zone for a touchback, trying to pin opponents inside 15 yards instead of starting on 25?
It's really hard to say, Ted, because I think in a practice setting like this, you want a return to happen. You're not intentionally trying to kick it out of the end zone because you obviously want to return and let the blocking develop. So I think they're being instructed to kick it in a way that it gets returned. So it's impossible to say what their actual philosophy for the new rules are going to be. They might not entirely know what they're going to, what their approach is. They want to see how other teams respond, what other teams' blocking schemes are. So that stuff may be undecided, but in a practice setting, it's really tough to tell. I think they kick off from the 40 even in special team sessions, so they don't even kick off from the usual spot because it's the 35 they kick off from, right?
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how this new rule plays on into this. Are we going to see more returns? Are teams just going to kick the touchback regardless, or what? So
yeah, I really have no idea. I'm right there with you. It'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah, I mean, that's just one of the things that I think we're just going to have to wait and see on there. From G Modestes. Will they use Jalen Samuels in a tight end or as a tight end or H-back? Have they lined him up there?
Nope, not at all. They will not use him there. He'll be a running back. He'll be a receiver, whether he can be the slot, he can be an outside guy. They will use him in a variety of ways from there. They'll motion him from empty into the backfield to an empty set out wide. They'll use him in a lot of ways there, but no tight end work, nothing like that he did at NC State.
Yeah, G, and if you've heard us talk any during these podcasts during since the draft and all, yeah, he lined up all over the place at North Carolina State, and tight end, H-back, in the slot, out wide, wildcat, quarterback, running back, you name it, he lined up there. But he's not a blocking tight end. He's really not a guy that you're going to use a lot as an H-back either, because if you do any split zones or whatnot, he's just not a guy that I don't think you want to trust out there blocking right away. And we need to see a little bit more out of him. So I'm with Alex. I'll be surprised. Maybe we see a snap out of maybe an H-back alignment. Maybe, but I think even that's pushing it at this point. Let's see. Are you showing any more of these, Alex? I'm trying to see if I missed any here. Someone says they used the wrong. Okay, Alex, if you had to name a freak on our defense, who would it be? Freakishly gifted.
Of anyone, I guess he probably wants someone that isn't a starter. Edmonds is pretty much a freak. Again, a safety they can cover like a corner. You don't get too many of those guys, and the athleticism was off the charts. That's part of why he got drafted as high as he did. And there's a train coming, so that's maybe appropriate for Terrell Edmonds. He's kind of freaky. Adeniyi's freaky because he's such a short guy. He's got that James Harrison kind of mold. So those are two freaky guys. Matthew Thomas as well, and I'll shut up now.
Beast 43 also wants to know, and another question: is there any indication of Joey Porter doing good things as a linebacker coach? Boy, I'm sure that's probably not an easy question to answer during training camp, Alex.
Yeah, it's tough to tell. It's tough to tell any instruction. A lot of that happens on the far field when they break into individual work. Offense will work closest to the bleachers and reporters and all that. Defense works on the opposite side. So it's hard to say for sure. And, you don't, I mean, everything to me would sound like good coaching because who am I to disagree and say that something isn't being coached properly? So I see the comment on Twitter now from Beast43. Thank you for your service in the military, my man. But I really couldn't give you a good answer on Joey Porter and how competent he is. It's not my wheelhouse.
And look, I'm not the biggest Joey Porter as a coach fan.
Right,
I'll admit that. But sometimes if you give somebody some bad clay to work with, you're going to get a pot that looks like it was made by a fourth grader, right?
Or me, because it would look about the same. I'm no artiste.
Let's just be honest here. Up until Watt, I guess you could say the jury's still out on Dupree, but I'm holding my breath as far as that is concerned this year. Maybe the whole flipping the sides because of the skill set excuse that Tomlin and Kevin Colbert are giving this offseason will work out there. But I mean, look at what you've had to work with, right?
Yeah, it's a good point, and that's something I've thought about a lot with Cardinal Lake. I know it's irrelevant now, but I kind of judge. Here's how I judge whether it's a draft and a talent evaluation issue or is it a coaching issue. If the players that get drafted and they get cut and they go somewhere else and they succeed, then it more likely was a coaching issue, where there was talent there, but the coaching didn't bring it out. But if it's players that just fall out of the league altogether and they don't have any sort of success anywhere else, then that's probably more of a talent evaluation issue where they just miss on the prospect who didn't have the talent to succeed in the league. And with Cardinal Lake's tenure, there was a lot of guys that came into the league and just fell out of it after they came out of Pittsburgh. You can go through the whole list. I mean, we don't have to do it again, but you didn't see too many cases of guys the Steelers drafted in the secondary, got cut, land somewhere else and be successful. Guys that just bounced around and were journeymen that fell out of the league eventually. So, it's a good point, and it's a tough evaluation, but that's kind of how I frame it.
Yeah, and look, I mean, if T.J. Watt has 12 sacks this year, are we going to be talking about, well, the pedigree? He should, or are we going to talk about what a great coach Joey Porter is?
Probably the first one. Yeah, the coaches, they don't get the credit, but they get the blame. That's just the life of a coach.
Exactly. And look, I mean, we hope. I gave Bud Dupree too many stars that he's seeing stars.
Wow.
Too soon?
Too soon.
Too soon. I'm sorry. I apologize. But look, nobody wants to see that duo. For those of you longtime listeners, you know my feeling on when it comes to drafts in the Steelers. I take all edge rushers and maybe one other position because you just got to have those edge rushers. I'm joking, of course, but man, I like to see those early edge rushers because you get what you pay for sometimes, I think, and I understand. And look, Dupree was a quote unquote measurable guy, right? But was he all that at Kentucky?
No, he was a really raw guy. He was a total project, and that needed good coaching to come up. But again, how much do you blame on the coaching versus the player versus health and other factors? I mean, it's a really difficult discussion to have, especially for us on the outside.
And look, I mean, if the secondary turns around, how much credit will Bradley get? I mean, we hear good things about him, and look, we thought there were going to be good things about Carnell Lake, but once again, when it came to Carnell Lake, up until Artie Burns and Sean Davis were drafted in rounds 1 and 2, where was his pedigree? Where was the pedigree he was given?
Yeah, no, it's all fair. I think I will say that if the secondaries does succeed, Bradley will get a ton of credit. It's just a question of if it fails, does Bradley get all the blame, or do they deflect because how much he was talked up? I guess we'll find out.
All right, winners and losers from today. I know it's kind of hard to do, but.
Yeah, there really isn't a whole lot to go off of. You could say Tevin Jones, Bucky Hodges did some nice things in terms of losers. I mean, really not a whole lot there. I thought, Juju had 2 touchdowns and 7 shots. Then he fell on a route. I guess he fell, and it was an interception. So a lot of talking about Juju and the whole focus thing. Again, I think it's overblown. I won't put a loser today because it's in setting where it's impossible to judge that. But I thought Tevin Jones, Bucky Hodges did some nice stuff today.
Why don't you make me the loser for today?
Why would I do that, Dave? You're the winner forever in my
heart. No. Let's do this real quick. Name me 2 stars on offense and 2 stars on defense for Thursday night.
That I predict that we'll have good performances?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'll start defense. I'll say Adeniyi, because like I said, I think he's going to get some sacks because some of these tackles that are 6'7" just don't know what to do with a guy that's 6'1", 250 and can rip under you. So I think Adeniyi will do well. I think Matthew Thomas, just athleticism. Athleticism can often win when guys are all kind of playing slower, but you're just naturally faster. It can kind of give you an advantage. So I'll give you Thomas. I'll throw in Deshaun Phillips as well. Offensively, I think James Washington can do well, so I'll give you a more household name with James Washington. And I think Jalen Samuels will do well because they're going to line him up in different spots, and teams aren't game planned to deal with a running back. You're going to get some poor rookie linebacker dealing with Jalen Samuels on like a crossing route, and he's just not going to be able to match. So I'll go with the rookies there, James Washington and Jalen Samuels.
True or false, Quadre Henderson will have a return, whether it be a punt or kickoff return, longer than 39 yards.
False, and that's probably the easy answer to give, but I think new rules, people got to figure stuff out. The blocking generally is not going to be great in this situation, so false.
All right, my man. Let's see. Steelers have a walkthrough tomorrow, then travel to Philadelphia, have the game on Thursday. No training camp practice until when?
Saturday,
and that's when you'll be back at Latrobe. You and I will be back on the podcast that evening. David Todd and I will be back together Wednesday morning for a show, and then Friday morning to recap the preseason game. So you get myself and David Todd the next couple of shows here on Wednesday and Friday. Give a shout out to Lynn, and listen, folks, we appreciate you shouting out Lynn and Touring Plans on Twitter. I know that he saw that because he liked a few of those tweets. We certainly do appreciate that. Tell him about him, Alex.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate not only Len's help and support of the site, but you guys, Steelers Nation, for being very loyal and just very what's the word there? Just do it. I don't even know what the word is, but just reaching out, showing their support for the people that help us. Len Testa, touringplans.com. Great guy, great friend of the site. Has helped us sponsor through Senior Bowls and of course through training camp for several years now. I'm coming up on my, I think, 75th straight training camp practice. I think Saturday might be the day for that. So he's been around for almost that whole time. So yeah, if you need a Disney trip plan, I know that can be a chaotic, hectic situation. You want to make that go as smoothly as possible. Len Testa and Touring Plans are the group you want to hit up.
Alex, I love you, and I love all of our I love all of our listeners as well too. I just want to get that out there. I love all of you, and with that, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex Kozora on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast. You can email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit that donate button, upper right navigational bar. Certainly do appreciate all of you listening. Enjoy if you don't hear us on the podcast tomorrow, enjoy the game. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with tonight, myself and Alex Kozora. Good night.